It appears yesterday we had one of those particularly rare, unreleased iPhones spotted in the wild. There's a lot of indications that support this theory because obviously the LiDAR and the flash on the back of this iPhone test unit is in a very different location, and it's inside the typical developer kit case, which kind of disguises the exterior design, makes it totally flat off the back so you can't really see much of the camera bump, and someone outside of Apple's own campus, I guess, decided today was a good day to start filming or experimenting with it a little bit. Yeah, that black tape over the Apple logo on the back of the older iPhone, that's really gonna cover you, but unfortunately, yes, with the way Apple handles these things, someone's unfortunately gonna be losing their job, I'm pretty sure. But from the secondary angle, which absolutely needed a good lens wipe, my goodness, but ignoring the smudgy photo itself, it feels like either they put a very specific screen protector on this phone, or the iPhone 17 may be rocking a little bit more of a anti-reflective display. The glass looks a lot more flat and far less reflective than what we'd see on previous generation iPhones, but to be honest, I wouldn't dive too much into the screen reflectiveness because of course this is an unreleased model, this is in a development case, so there's a good chance that they just put a aftermarket screen protector, or heck, it's Apple, I guess it doesn't even need to be aftermarket. They have maybe their own tinted glass that they use at the facilities whenever they're using unreleased iPhones out in the wild. That just makes it very, very hard to see anything that's on the display, especially from different angles. But the real question that I find fascinating about this particular leak is how often does this actually happen and go unnoticed? Honestly, if you're not part of the tech community, you probably wouldn't think twice about seeing a development iPhone in the wild like this. It just kind of looks like a boring basic case, but it also gives us good reason to believe why Apple doesn't like changing the camera bump on the back all that much, because frankly, if they weren't keeping that stovetop camera design, it would probably be much easier to spot in the wild, like, what kind of phone is that? Why does it look so different? But as much as surprises at Apple events are fun, I have to admit, this kind of does at least strongly support, I don't use the word confirmed, but it strongly supports the idea that this visor design we've seen leaked for the 17 Pro and Pro Max is actually happening, because all of the leaked renders and dimensions pretty much line up exactly with this photo, and it also probably extinguishes a recent report that Mac Rumors gave that I hated the idea of. They claimed Apple was going to be adding a second camera control button to the top of the iPhone. Horrible idea, but also I don't think that report is going to end up being true, because case manufacturers get the dimensions of the unreleased iPhone well in advance, and we probably would have heard about it by now, because if there is an additional button, the case manufacturers typically have to leave that spot available for the button to be pressed. That's how we knew about camera control way in advance last year, before the iPhones were officially unveiled, but obviously this dev case doesn't have a cutout for it. I guess they might just cover it up because it's an unreleased iPhone, but also none of the leaked designs for upcoming iPhone 17 cases have had that additional camera cutout. So hopefully that tipster ends up being wrong, or it could easily be another one of those scenarios where they were hearing about some kind of prototype feature that was just on a few internal development iPhones that was not actually planned for mass production. That's probably the more likely scenario. But how often do you guys think Apple employees actually take the unreleased iPhones into the wild to see how the cameras perform? Obviously, when the event officially happens, they need to have photos that were taken on the iPhone 17 to showcase during the presentation. So it's not like you can keep everything perfectly internally the entire time, especially if there's some new audio or video demos as well, where you want to showcase how much better the microphones sound on a new iPhone. Then you kind of have to take it to busier locations where obviously other people are going to see that phone. I'm sure for most of that advertising, they probably have a closed set and a bunch of extras that sign NDAs, but how often do you guys think they're actually in the wild, not on a set, just experimenting with development iPhones? Do you think this employee was doing something definitely against protocol, or do you think this is the kind of thing that they usually get away with and are just hoping that the untrained eye doesn't spot any differences on the back? Feel free to let me know your thoughts and speculations down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again, have an excellent rest of your day.